Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm who?
I'm Bob Gibbons. I don't know who you are today.
I'm Stephen Nooner, and really excited to introduce our guest, Don Smith. Don Smith is the president of Elite Electronics, a company based here in Dallas. For the last 10 years, they have 38 employees, and they help collision and auto service centers with very specialized repairs. Looking forward to learn more about that. Maybe we can get some tips. Yeah. How to not get ripped off by our mechanic.
Or maybe how to do it ourselves.
Yeah. No,
save money.
That's you. I refuse.
And how do we find them online if we want to learn more?
Well, that's a great question, Bob. Elite-dfw.com.
That's it.
Welcome, Don.
Is a dash and a hyphen the same thing?
I think they're the same.
I think it all depends if it's if you're French or American.
Okay.
I thought it was north or south of the Red River.
Okay.
All right, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, so we're going to move right along.
Tomato.
This is what happens when you don't spend enough time preparing for the show, Bob.
Okay. All right, so Stephen, we always start off with a quote, some wisdom from someone else. Who do you have for us today?
Well, I liked Don's quote, and it kind of made me think of another quote. So Don's quote was, "It will either work or it won't. When fixing problems, it really simplifies the problem and keeps me from getting overwhelmed with the decision." So tell us about that.
I just use that to keep me grounded when I've got a big decision or small decision, either one. Just think about it. It's either going to work or it's not.
It's not the end of the world either way.
Either way,
I like
it just keeps it in perspective.
That's what I liked is the freedom of it, right? So that you can get a lot of pressure sometimes involved in these decisions. And how often does the first decision you make absolutely the perfect choice anyway?
Right.
I mean, don't we always end up kind of pivoting or whatever?
Yep. Go with that gut feeling.
Yeah. So, and then when I don't listen to my gut, a lot of times I regret it, which is amazing. But it made me think of another quote that I really like. I collect quotes. So, a mediocre plan violently executed is better than an excellent plan that never leaves the cave or stable.
Oh, yeah. You got to make a decision, but decisions are no good if they don't have implementation.
They don't leave and violently executed, right? Just go get it, go after it, and pivot if you need to.
So, Don, tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Oh, I guess the main thing would be play ice hockey once a week. I've done that for about
You look like a hockey player.
10 years. Started as an adult.
What does that mean?
It means that guys like that are the reason I don't play hockey. He can kick my butt big time.
And the other thing is I was in the military for about 10 years in the Air Force as military police, deployed with them a couple of times. So
Wow.
that's probably the two biggest things most people don't know about me.
And what was your job over there?
Military police.
Oh, that's right, MP.
So thank you for your service. And also our producer extraordinaire here, Jack, was actually military police as well. So
Great.
Nice.
he's got some...
So he's going to make me sound better than y'all, right?
Yeah, he is.
I was picked up by the military police.
That won't be
once.
hard.
I grew up on Army post, so I had some information about MPs we won't talk about right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Don, tell us about Elite, but more importantly, I think it's really cool if you'd share how you got started.
Well, getting started in the industry was started out as a passion. I enjoyed the car stereos when I was younger and started out installing those and installing car alarms. That transitioned into having to learn how to fix cars because I would break stuff and burn up wires on cars, my friends, and couldn't afford to go get it fixed, so I had to learn how to fix it, which eventually ended up in me repairing cars and then trying to get out of the industry, going to school full-time for business, and got hired into running this company. And wife gave me encouragement to purchase it when the opportunity came along.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, I thought it was very cool. So, I mean, how often Bob's wife, I mean, your company wouldn't exist if Jan didn't.
Oh, yeah. She wanted me to do it, and she basically was willing to sacrifice to make sure it happened.
A very similar situation for us. We were still engaged. Actually, I want to make sure we were engaged when this came along. It was right along the time we were either getting engaged or just gotten engaged, and she had that much confidence in me, so that worked out really well.
That's cool. So tell us the bottom line. What does Elite do, and what's unique about it?
So the easiest elevator pitch I can give you is this. I had to work on this when I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program.
Yeah.
I worked on it for like 2 months. It was horrible. Basically, Elite Electronics is an automotive repair company that's mobile. We do work for collision centers or automotive repair centers such as Firestone, Goodyear, Service King, or Caliber. We go in there and fix problems for them, work on vehicles for them for one of three reasons. Either lack of manpower, they just don't have a mechanic in-house full-time, go in and do mechanical work. Lack of knowledge, they have a mechanic, but he doesn't know how to do a particular skill, i.e. replacing airbags or an electrical repair, can't find out what's wrong with it. Or lastly is lack of equipment. Lack of equipment being they've got a mechanic, he knows how to do it, but the adaptive headlights that turn when you go around a corner need to be reset, or the cruise control that has the radars on it that follows the car in front of you, the intelligent cruise control has to be re-aimed. So we go in and do all that kind of stuff.
So I took my car into the shop, a couple of years ago, and I had to
The Ferrari dealership, Bob?
Bugatti.
Nice.
But the dealership said I had to come on a particular day of the week because the radio guy only came in on that day. So would that be the kind of thing you would have been doing?
Typically, at a dealership, that's kind of an odd scenario. We do work for dealerships, but it's typically like if it's a used car they've taken in on trade, or their body shop or collision center or something like that. But the radio guy, that might be if the radio had to be repaired. So they were probably pulling it out and sending it in for repair instead of just replacing it with a new one.
Or maybe you were customizing it, putting your subwoofers in and everything?
No.
No?
Did you take out the back seat and put in like a wall of subwoofers back there? Is that what was
I think
going
Bob
on?
did.
Again, you guys have lost me. Okay, so who is your ideal client then? Is it those body shops and
The
stuff?
body shops are really the ideal clients for us. The mechanic shops and the used car lots, those are really the icing on the cake. But the body shop is our core business.
And so I find that really kind of surprising, but I guess that I shouldn't. It's like you see all these these auto repair places, and they advertise that they do everything, right?
Right.
And I guess it sounds like there's a lot of stuff they can't do, and it's the technology's getting more. Just the things you mentioned, intelligent cruise. I mean, the technology's getting more and more sophisticated. So
it changes daily. That's our biggest challenge is staying up with the technology and it's trying to learn the technology that comes out. I mean, this technology comes out so fast. We see it before the dealerships do. The dealership, when you take your car in for service, they're only going to see stuff on a vehicle that's breaking due to normal wear and tear typically.
right.
At a body shop, we see stuff that gets broke on a car on a 2016 or 2017 that has 200 miles on it. The dealership's never worked on that individual system yet.
Oh wow.
So it's a very niche industry that we get to play with some really fun, leading, cutting-edge technology.
Now, do you guys work on every kind of car that's out there, or do you specialize in certain makes, models, whatever?
We cover probably 99% of the vehicles on the road.
Tesla.
We have not worked on a Tesla. Actually, we've done a couple of small things on a Tesla. We haven't done anything major. The things we're not going to cover are going to be like your Bugattis and your Ferraris.
Sure.
Those kind of vehicles, the supercars. But BMWs, Mercedes,
Sorry,
Jaguar, Land Rovers. we've got all that covered.
Keep going. You'll get down to my.
We'll get down to your,
place eventually.
Fred Flintstone, yabba dabba doo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I guess from a business standpoint, do you have, like your insurance agent, for example, would your insurance policy restrict you from working on certain cars due to the value of them or something?
They have not as of yet. But I'm more on ask for forgiveness than permission. We'll figure that out when it comes along.
Okay.
We'll talk about that at lunch. So with technology, you talked about the advancement of technology. So what's your prediction on how self-driving cars, I mean, do you see that as being something that's going to impact your business?
I think it will. I haven't decided good or bad yet, but
Sure.
it's definitely going to impact it. I think on the collision side of it, it's going to reduce the amount of vehicles that are going in for repair. I don't think that we're going to see a negligible impact in our lifetimes, because there's just not enough of them going to be sold to make
Right.
a difference. But in the next generation, I think it very well could change the amount of volume going through a body shop.
That's an interesting idea because, yeah, I mean, it would be a disruptive technology to certain industries, just like the internet has been highly disruptive to certain industries. This could be disruptive to your industry in a big way.
You know, I think for my particular niche, I think we'll be able to adapt and specialize in working on those vehicles. You know, there's already a shortage in our industry of technicians that can work on newer vehicles because they're not taking the time to learn the newer technology and the electrical side of it. They're more mechanical mechanics.
Yeah. Computers, I mean.
It's all computers now. That's the number one tool in a mechanic's toolbox, should be his laptop
Wow.
Interesting.
and the tool that sits on his shoulders.
So how do you hire for that? I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show. I mean, I know culture is really important, but how do you hire for someone? I mean, you have kind of old school mechanic type stuff, like you said, and then you got to have someone that's willing to.
So for us, it's pretty easy because we do such a wide variety of stuff. We can find a place in our company if they have the right fit and the personality and the culture. We can find a place in our, for our old school mechanic just to replace parts. But we also have, when we find a technician that has the ability to diagnose and really think on his feet and learn the new technology, finding them, it's just lots of interviews.
Yeah. So you spend quite a bit of time interviewing then?
We do. More of it's just getting to know them. If they have a high aptitude, we can on the vehicles, on the electrical side, we can teach them what they need to know.
I was really surprised. I was telling you before the show started, my daughter has a good friend, a female friend, who actually went to college and got a college degree in auto mechanics, and I didn't know that existed.
You know, it's not something we look for. If they have it, great, but it's not necessarily. We're looking for more experience. That's really what we want. If they have experience, that's the key thing for us.
Interesting.
That's an interesting degree. I mean, a lot of times tech schools were really big with that, right? And
Right.
those types of things. So
I think it may have been an associate's degree, like a 2-year degree, not a 4-year, but still, it blew my mind that they had that in that
Right.
particular university. I would have never guessed that.
Well, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, Donna's going to tell us that there's such thing as an honest mechanic and how to identify them. Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand, and landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at TexasTenantRep.com. Again, that's TexasTenantRep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
This is Don Crawford Jr., CEO of KWM Radio, and we're returning to the next level with Steve and Bob. And please, it's going to get better. I promise. Just keep listening and hang in there. It's going to get better.
Welcome back to the Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. We're here with our guest, Don. And Don is the owner of Elite Electronics, and you can find him online at elite-dfw.com.
Or dash.
Or dash, assuming they're the same thing. So, Don, the thing I was interested in knowing, that you talked a lot about your client, your customer being the body shops, et cetera. So do you do work for an individual? I mean, should I go to your website and...
We typically don't. There's a very few limited circumstances we do. And if anybody has questions out there on what we do, feel free to give us a call. But as a general rule of thumb, no, we don't.
Okay.
And so if you don't, I mean, and it's not a fit and you need to recommend, I mean, kind of back to the hook, I was surprised with that. I was just joking. But
right.
how do you? Because, I mean,
one of the things I would recommend if you're looking for an honest mechanic and you've had some bad experiences, or, go by the shop, don't get any work done. Just talk to the people up front. See if they're willing to spend a few minutes and talk to you. Then go in and get an oil change. See how they're treating you. Ask them, what is the process? If you put a part on my car and it doesn't fix the problem, what's your policy on that? And do I have to pay for that part, or
like warranty, or
right? Well, more, if you take your car in and it doesn't start, and they say, oh, your starter's bad, and they put a starter on it and it doesn't fix it, what's the policy? What's their policy on that? Are they going to pay for that starter, or are you still going to pay for that starter? Or is that part of the diagnostic process?
Oh, that's a good question.
Typically, putting parts on a car should not be part of the diagnostic process.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times that has become the diagnostic process for most mechanics I've dealt with. It's like, oh, we're just going to start following the schematic and replacing everything until one of them fixes it.
And it really is.
Weak
And
link.
Unfortunately, it's a problem in our industry because of the way that the pay structure is for the mechanics. Typically, they're paid to replace parts, not to diagnose cars.
So commission, you mean?
They are. They're straight commission.
Wow.
Even at dealerships?
Even at dealerships.
So just whatever they can replace
However
and
many
replace
hours
quick.
they can flag, just, very similar to like an attorney or a doctor. How many billable hours do they have? That's what they're paid on.
So the best paid mechanic can do the 4-hour job in 2.5 and
Yep.
bill the 4.
Interesting.
Yep. That's
Wow.
it.
So what about certifications? I see ASC, I think it is.
ASC is a big certification. I don't get wound up about certifications. To me, they're similar, in business, right? You get guys coming out with an MBA that you wouldn't let manage McDonald's.
Yeah, I have an MBA.
It's
A bunch of educated
then
idiots.
you've got guys that have, absolutely no educational background that could do a phenomenal job doing anything. So
in fact,
it's
whenever
more
I,
the individual.
When I decided to go to get my MBA, I was trying to decide which school to go to, and I didn't want a school filled with professors that I called academic weenies, guys that went from their kindergarten through their PhD and never had a real job.
Right.
So I went to a school that these people had real experience running companies and such.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like that's the same thing you're talking about.
That's what I look for when certification is, get to know, and if they'll let you go back there and talk to some of the mechanics when you're selecting a shop, if they'll let you do that, they may or may not, but if you can, it's a great thing to do.
Cool.
And on the educational thing, I mean, mindset and attitude and some of those things can cover a lot of, like, just because you don't have a pedigree. I mean, we've had people that are good friends of ours now, but a girl that was on our team that led our personal insurance team, we had people that reported to her. She had a high school diploma. There were people that reported to her with MBAs, and
Yeah.
I mean, she would run circles around them. She was smart.
Yeah.
She just didn't spend the time school wasn't her thing, you
Yeah.
know. So
So tell us about how your company, you said you bought the company in, what was that? You said 2005, I think, or?
2005, 2006. 2006 officially was November of 2006 was when we officially started with our LLC.
And it was a mobile business at that point already.
Correct.
So take us, what's happened since then?
Well, if we back up just a few months prior to that, we had just hired another employee when the other company owned it. The other company was a body shop, so there was
Really?
a lot of other body shops that wouldn't do business with Elite because they considered it a competition or a conflict of interest.
sure.
So then when I took over, most everybody, that news got out pretty rapidly, and I was pretty adamant about trying to get that out as quickly as possible. So it was a lot easier to get business. As you can imagine, there's not a huge amount of competition for what we do. There was one other company that kind of had the market cornered, and which is good and bad. Everybody already knows our industry exists. The people they do business for either love them or hate them, and
Right.
the ones that didn't, we were like vultures in there trying to grab that. So we grew the business, and eventually we're able to expand, I guess, in 08. Let's see. No, wait. Got my years mixed up here. We're in what, 16 now?
Yes.
14. January 14, we expanded outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
So, and you've expanded to a lot of different areas now. I mean,
Correct.
where all are you
So
officially?
we're in Dallas-Fort Worth, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Oklahoma City, and Philadelphia.
So how do you decide? I mean, that's kind of almost apparently random, but I'm sure that's not.
It looks random on a map. What it really comes down to is our relationships with the large collision centers like Caliber, Service King, Abra Auto Body. So they have. We can look on the map and see where they have a large footprint in a certain area. Once we find that, we can get with them and find out what competition, if any, is in that region, or if they have needs. And in some cases, they come to us and ask us. Oklahoma City, for example, all three of them got together and had me up there for lunch to
Wow.
convince me there was enough work in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
That's amazing that three competitors
What a
would
nice
do that.
compliment.
Absolutely. That's what I thought. I was just flabbergasted.
So I'm sure the first one was probably the scariest, right? Because you hadn't done it before.
It was. It's not significantly less scary now.
Right.
But yes, the first one was very scary.
What was that first one?
First one was Nashville.
Okay.
Service King had asked us to come in there. They'd said, look, we have that opportunity. We'd love for you to be there. Our operations, we know yours. So we went up there, went through about 3 or 4 managers before we found the right one. And me and Steve were talking about that earlier, about how to find the right ones and what to look for. But once we got there and finally got it under control, it was pretty easy. But mine's a little bit different situation. When I walk into a new region, we've done enough research to where we almost have break-even numbers within the first month.
Wow.
I mean,
Nice.
there's not a huge investment. It's more knowledge and the relationships than it is anything else for us.
So you've never gone into a city cold. You've already had a client before you've gotten there.
Correct.
Yeah, so that makes sense. And how many employees? I mean, I guess we said in the intro you have 38 employees. So are all of those mechanics, or how many of those are mechanics?
All of them are mechanics except for 6, myself, my wife, and 4 people, 4 ladies in the office.
Wow.
So your wife's pretty involved in the business then?
It comes in spurts.
Yeah.
She gets
She will
really
be
involved.
listening.
It comes in spurts. She gets really involved during the summer. I think she'll be less involved. The kids are out of school, but when the kids are in school, she stays pretty heavily involved.
Well, that'll keep you pretty busy. The kids do.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. They keep us going 100 miles an hour.
So, if you had to change one thing about the way your business is running right now, what would you change and why?
I would say one of the things we're working on changing is really the formality of it. A lot of these things that when we were a small business, or not that we're not a small business now, but when we were 2 or 3 or 4 employees, oh, we don't need that. That's for bigger companies. That's for corporations. Employee handbooks, training manuals, operation manuals. Taking the time and doing those. If you see yourself and you really have goals, and visions of expansion in your company, taking the time to document your procedures when you're small. That way, as you grow, you have a formal training process and formal procedures, and it's not something that when you have employees coming in to work for you and interviewing, it makes you look a lot more professional and
Sure.
more legit company, so to speak.
You know, the last company I was with, we did not have a policies and procedures manual. And it was interesting as we grew, the people that were asking for it were the new hires. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? Where's your policy? What? You don't have one? Are you kidding me? And eventually we had to create one just because our growth was too much. But I guess in your case, my view would be that your Service Kings and Calibers, et cetera, would have much greater confidence in expanding you to other regions if you have a replicatable platform that is evidenced by that P&P.
Right, and that's really what it comes down to for us is the ease of opening up in a new region for having those manuals in place versus trying to spend so much time in that region and training the new managers on how to do stuff and not really having a good way for them to fall back and without doing a lot of research, just having the manual right there for the, maybe if it's just the top 10 things that you do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis for these people, just having those, start out small and get those policies and procedures and manual things going in a book for them.
And what we found, because we're a pretty process-driven company, is that it's something you just have to, once you get to the point where you start implementing, you just have to be committed that you're never going to be done. Because if you want it perfect the first time, you just got to get to 80% as quick as you can. Because as soon as you get that done, then things will change. You'll find better ways of doing things, and you got to update it. And it's just one of those things that has to keep. We have every new team member, actually, when they come in, we have them work from it, and we tell them your job is to improve it. So it's supposed to be that everyone is kind of paying it forward for the next team member, right?
Right.
So you said you'll take experience over education. What about attitude?
Attitude outweighs everything.
Really?
Everything. If they don't know how to work on cars.
Why do I care what their attitude is if they know how to, replace the engine block or whatever?
So for the regular mechanic, you don't see your regular mechanic. You deal with the people up front. For us, our mechanics are the face of our company. They're the ones in there dealing with our customers on a daily basis. So they really make a huge impact on business. They can make or break us at a particular shop. We have shops that say, hey, I don't want so-and-so back in here because I don't like his attitude. And sometimes it's just personality conflicts.
Sure.
But other times it's not, and that attitude goes viral. And, even for a company that it doesn't matter, where the individual public is not going to see your employees, that attitude can be viral across your company. And next thing you know, that your other employees, it's gotten contagious and they've picked up on it.
It's toxic.
It is.
It's toxic. We've learned that the hard way, unfortunately. So if we're sitting together 3 years from now and looking back today, what needs to happen for you to feel satisfied with the progress you've made?
Well, first of all, we need to be sitting and doing this radio show in Cancun or
Perfect.
something like that.
Perfect. You're hired.
Yeah.
For me, it's really about spending less time and not spending less time at the company and not doing so much work and having good people in place.
Yeah, let the business run itself, not be there every minute.
And
cool.
Regardless of whether we expand.
Well, Don, thanks for being with us on the show today.
Thanks, Don.
We've enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about Don's company, please go to elite-dfw.com. And if you want to know more about, just calm down, Stephen. I know you're itching to jump in and say something smart. What was I going to say?
Yeah. Well, or if you want to connect with us, visit nextlevelshow.com. You can click like us on Facebook, see who upcoming guests are. If you heard something, know someone could benefit from Don's service or someone that could benefit from just the experience you shared today, please visit them and check them out.
Sounds good. See you next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.